Hello, Sam here, editor of Oracle Time, and today I'm here in our COVID-free bunker with 5 watches, all with one thing in common: value. And no, I don't mean they're cheap. Accessible watchmaking has been going through a renaissance over the past few years, with micro-brands and entrepreneurial startups, alongside a scattering of larger watchmakers offering serious bang for your buck. Amongst all those fairly priced, feel-good new watches, there are some that are a cut above the rest. We're talking about the pieces that aren't just another value proposition, the watches that go a step beyond just repackaging a Seiko movement with a Chinese-made case and dial. These all contain elements of high-end or cutting-edge watchmaking in one way or another, but won't break the bank. Here then are the 5 best watches worth more than their price tag. First up, we have the Baltic Aquascaphe GMT. Baltic launched their original Aquascaphe right at the crest of the retro diver wave, but it was more than just timing that's made it one of the most successful out there. The design cues are taken from French Navy watches like the 50 Thavens, more elegant than your usual utilitarian Submariner-inspired divers, something you don't often see in the sub £1,000 price range. They're assembled in Baltic's own workshop in France, and quality of life touches like quick change straps and sapphire crystal make for watches that feel more expensive than they are. The only letdown previously has been the movement, a pretty cheap Miyota 9039. Fortunately, in the latest GMT version, the Aquascaphe has been upgraded with a solid and far more unusual Soprod C125. They've kept the svelte, retro proportions of the original model and added some cool GMT colorways to the bezel. In this case, a blue and orange mashup that I'm just gonna go ahead and call a Fanta bezel. Like anything true to retro form, it's relatively small at 39mm, which, combined with the beads of rice bracelet, make it an incredibly comfortable piece. Sure, it's a bit funkier than most divers this side of Doxa, but that's why we love it. That and the fact that it's just over 920 euros, which is about £823. Next up, the Frederique Constant Highlife COSC Automatic. I was a little worried back in 2016 when Citizen decided to buy Frederique Constant and Alpina. What would a tech-oriented watch brand like them do with the previously fiercely independent pair? Well, for once, and perhaps the only time, my pessimism was unfounded. And since then, Citizen has let FC do what they do best, the latest result of which is the Highlife collection. The Highlife is Frederique Constant's answer to Sports Luxe, and looks-wise shares a lot in common with watches like the Urban Jungerson 1, especially in the bracelet, or the Vacheron Overseas. The most impressive of the 3 is the Perpetual Calendar, but for my money it's all about the COSC Automatic, with its in-house FC303 caliber. Paired with anti-glare sapphire, front and back, and an engraved globe on the charming blue dial, it's aimed squarely enough at the jet set to make me wonder where the world timer is. All of that for £1,595, and you have not my favourite entry into the Sports Luxe canon, but the only one, other than maybe a Bell & Ross, that I can actually see myself buying. Third, we have the Seiko PROSPEX Alpinist. Now let's move on to a brand that crowns pretty much every value roundup there is, the Japanese watchmaking giant that is Seiko. As I've already mentioned, Seiko's movements are the lifeblood of many a micro brand. They're cheap, reliable and readily available. The 2020 Alpinist though uses the latest Seiko 6R35 caliber, notable for its impressive 70-hour power reserve. Of course, there's a lot more to love about the Alpinist than its movement. Originally launched in 1958, the latest version, with its handsome grey fume dial, is a lot more elegant than we've come to expect from the PROSPEX line, and in a much smaller, more casual 38mm steel case. It still has a solid 200-meter water resistance though, and its mountaineering good looks make for a phenomenal everyday watch. The price? Just £600. Yeah, Seiko was always a given on this list. Next, the Oris Aquis Calibre 400. The highest priced watch on this list, the Aquis itself is nothing new. In fact, it's been a core part of Oris's collection for most of the watchmaker's life. It's always been well priced for what it is and accessible when compared to the bigger prestige divers. The reason it's on this list though is for one reason: the Calibre 400. The Calibre 400 is Oris's brand new, completely in-house movement. and was designed to be the new benchmark automatic on the market. And it pretty much is. Twin barrels offer an incredible 5-day power reserve, a new slide bearing system for the rotor knocks out some of the detrimental friction, and a silicone escape wheel and anchor counter everyday magnetism. I wouldn't throw it in an MRI machine, but it should be affected by some overcompensating loudspeakers. Pair that with an already great dive watch with 300 meters water resistance and a solid diving bezel, and you have it all. You are paying extra for the Calibre 400, the new Aquis is priced at $2,700 compared to the previous $1,600, but as far as we're concerned, it is worth the extra investment. Finally, we have the Aquastar Deepstar. Back in the 60s and 70s, the heyday of diving watches, Aquastar was one of the most influential names out there, leading the charge in professional underwater wristwear. Rather than the standard Swiss watch designers, they used engineers, scientists, and professional divers to create their watches, leading to the original seminal Deepstar of 1965. Now, decades later, the Deepstar has returned in one of the most authentic and individual revivals yet. Its off-kilter, monocompax chronograph is instantly recognizable, and the rotating diving bezel has 2 different scales. The inner track is your classic diving scale, while the outer can be used with diving tables to calculate decompression times. Back in the day, it was a necessity. Now, it's just seriously cool. There's a scattering of lume across the dial, but just in the places that matter most: the hands, hour markers, and trapezoid indexes at 12, 6, and 9. The final touch is the operation indicator at 9. It's just there to show that the watch is actually keeping time. You really don't want that to stop moving, especially if you are 200 meters down. The caliber inside is almost as authentic as the archival design. Custom manufactured for the Deepstar by La Joux-Perret in line with the Valjoux 23 of the original, it's equipped with a column wheel chronograph and a respectable 55-hour power reserve. The main difference between the Deepstar of today and the 1965 original is the water resistance, which has been improved from 100 meters to 200. If that hadn't happened, it probably wouldn't be on this list. As it is, despite being the second most expensive watch here, at around £2,650, it's a hell of a lot of watch for the money. And there you have it, our picks for the watches that are worth more than their price tags. Did we miss any? Do you disagree incorrectly with any of our picks? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for the latest watch news and reviews from us here at Oracle Time.